Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Chill Out podcast. So it's Saturday. I'm super mellow right now. I'm vibing. I'm chilling on my bed and I'm recording this episode. And I'm just super excited to be spending some time with you. I did take a week off of podcasting just because sometimes I feel like when you get to that point where things are starting to feel a little bit overwhelming, just from like day-to-day stuff, and then also you have like a long to-do list, sometimes I just find that I need to just like take a step back from everything and sometimes literally just do nothing, like go to the beach and stare at the waves for an hour or something like that, you know. But I'm back. I'm super excited to be hanging out with you, and it's autumn in Cape Town, so the weather's been really great. It hasn't been like too hot. We did have a heat wave a few weeks ago, which is honestly unbearable. I'm not even kidding right now. But autumn has this like really, I don't know, it's like a chill type of weather where it's like sunny days, but then it's like cooler nights, which is like the perfect combination. And I love summer, but sometimes it's really nice just to have a beautiful sunny blue sky kind of day and then be able to go to bed and it's like cooler, so you're not like overheating and sweating, if you get what I mean. So I wanted to record this episode because most conversations around weight are so surface level. It's always about the physical. So like eat less, move more, follow this plan, cut out this food, do this challenge. While those things can matter, that was never the turning point for me. The biggest shift didn't happen in the gym or in the kitchen. It happened in my mind. It was the way that I spoke to myself, the way that I saw my body, the way that I interpreted the hard things that happened in my life. And I didn't just lose physical weight over time. I lost a lot of mental weight too. And I just think that the pressure to look a certain way and the constant self-criticism. So I also wanted to be honest here on this episode because I'm not someone who just woke up confident one day and decided to love herself. I actually struggled with body image for a very long time. And I had a really complicated relationship with food. And I went through heartbreak and anxiety and, you know, those quiet internal battles that people don't always see, but they make the most impact in your life. The kind of stuff that you carry around in your head while still showing up to work, still posting on social media, still smiling in photos. Healing wasn't this big dramatic transformation. For me, it was slow, uncomfortable, and honestly pretty messy at times. It was a lot of unlearning, a lot of starting over, and a lot of choosing to show up for myself on days when I really didn't feel like it. And it's so crazy because Hannah Montana had like their 20th anniversary or something, so they released like this Hanniversary episode, and I literally watched it last night. I was so excited. That was like my childhood, okay? I would literally chill on the couch upstairs at my parents' house and I would watch episodes on Disney Channel like every single weekend. I was such a fan of the show and just of like Disney Channel in general. Like me and my little brother, we would love watching Disney Channel, and it was such a vibe. Like just thinking back to those moments when you feel so free as a child and you feel so, I don't know, like the world is your oyster. And I think that watching that show for me, like personally, was so inspiring because Hannah Montana was like, it kind of made you feel like anything is possible. You can do whatever you want to do. You can follow your dreams. And that was what that show symbolized to me. And I was such a huge Miley Cyrus fan. Like I remember for Christmas getting money and my dad wrote in the card, "This is the contribution to your next Miley Cyrus video." And I was like so happy because yeah, I was just such a big Miley Cyrus fan. Honestly, like her music is just amazing. That show was such a monumental time in my childhood. And I think just watching that special brought back so many fun memories about being a kid and not having so much stress and worry and like having to like adult every single day, you know what I mean? So I literally watched it on the couch last night and I was crying my eyes out. Okay, I'm not even being dramatic right now. It was so emotional. I felt like my inner child was like healed in some crazy way. It was so beautiful. Honestly, that show is like amazing. But I just thought I wanted to share that because thinking back to those days when you are a kid and you know, nothing really scares you. Everything is still exciting and fresh and new, and you're just excited about life and nothing really bothers you that much because you don't have that much stress. So that's what sort of like inspired this episode, because I remember back in the day being so insecure about how I looked and going to like an all girls school with obviously really pretty girls, and then like magazines were like such a huge thing back then. So like you're comparing yourself to like actresses and people that you look up to, and I just honestly did not feel that great about myself. And also I was kind of overweight. Like I was looking at these photos from like when I was in high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, honestly, how could anyone be friends with me the way that I look? Totally being dramatic right now, but I'm just kidding. So I think just watching that episode again and sort of being reminded of, you know, those moments when you're on the couch at home and you're watching Disney Channel and you're watching Hannah Montana and you're feeling those feelings of so much possibility in life and feeling so good and carefree. If I could say one thing to that like little girl that did not feel that great about herself and how she looked, I would literally just tell her, you know what, just enjoy the moment. Because you know what, it does get better. It first gets worse and then it gets better, but things will be okay. And you just need to sort of embrace who you are in that moment and not put so much pressure on yourself and not compare yourself all the time, and just feel good for who you are, because anything is possible. And you can change how you look, you can change how you feel, and you can change, you know, things in your life in order to feel good again. I've just been sort of trying to like find small moments of joy again and sort of go back to those things that used to make me feel so good and happy. So I literally bought a longboard. Okay, I ordered one online and I got it yesterday, and I was so excited to see it. First of all, when I like went to go pick it up, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so big. But it's because I have a skateboard and it's like way smaller than that. But I'm not going to risk falling on my face again on that skateboard that I have. Those wheels are just, I'm sorry. I have so much respect for people who can really skate, but I like longboarding because it's just a little bit easier and it's fun. And I remember my little brother teaching me how to skate. And he was my little brother teaching me how to skate. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassing. But he taught me how to skate and he was really good at it. And just kind of like trying it out again and getting the longboard and, you know, taking it out and just enjoying that freedom of being and cruising and having a good time. It just makes me feel so good, guys. You have no idea. It's kind of like the feeling that I get when I'm painting or creating something on Canva or just being creative. There's just something so beautiful about that. And I think as a child, we sort of, I don't know, we just enjoy things so much more. And we just enjoy things just because, you know, just because we're vibing and we're having a good time and we're doing things that we actually enjoy doing. So this episode isn't a do these 4 things and your life will magically change situation. It's not a before and after story, and it's definitely not about perfection. These are just 4 habits or maybe mindsets that have helped me feel lighter as a person. And these are things that I actually shared in this article that I wrote for Odyssey Magazine, which is a really popular wellness publication here. They actually reached out to me and asked me if I would be interested in writing an article a few years back about my weight loss transformation. And I didn't only touch on, you know, working out and all of those types of things, like those vanity types of things that we tend to do when we're trying to feel better, to what I did in order to shed the weight, but also feel mentally good. I think that the goal is always just to feel calmer in my thoughts, more stable in my emotions, and more control of my life as much as I can. Not in like a rigid, controlling way, but in a grounded, self-respecting way. So if you're someone who feels mentally or physically heavy right now, my hope is that something in this episode makes you feel a little bit less alone and maybe gives you one small shift that you can carry into your own life. So let's take it away. So full disclosure, none of these are extreme, none of them are trendy, and honestly none of them would make for a very exciting TikTok. Okay, there was no 30-day shred, no juice cleanse, no secret morning routine where I woke up at 4 a.m. and journaled for an hour while drinking green powder. It wasn't that kind of transformation. It was quieter than that, slower, a lot less glamorous, a lot more sustainable. And I write a lot about this in my blog, The Ward Method, because I don't think that living better means being perfect and doing things the right way or doing something that looks aesthetically pleasing on social media. I think it has to do a lot with those small little habits that you do every single day that eventually add up. Most of the things that helped me were small, almost boring decisions that I repeated over and over again. Choosing a walk instead of another hour of scrolling. Reading a few pages instead of comparing myself to strangers online. Cooking something simple at home instead of punishing myself with another restrictive plan. Talking to myself with a little bit more patience and kindness instead of constant criticism, which I'm really, really good at. I literally take self-deprecation to another level. I just think that it's funny to sort of like make fun of yourself and be a little bit dramatic, you know? At the time, none of those things felt life-changing to me. They just felt small, practical choices. But when you stack those choices day after day, week after week, they start to shift how you feel about yourself. You start to trust yourself a bit more. You feel a little bit calmer, a lot more in control. And that inner shift naturally starts to show up in your habits and your body, your relationships, and the way that you move through the world. I didn't change everything overnight. I just started choosing slightly better thoughts, slightly better habits, and slightly kinder actions toward myself. And over time, those small shifts actually added up to a completely different version of me. One that actually liked what I saw in the mirror, one that actually felt good mentally to actually do more things that I wanted to do. So if you're listening to this and you're waiting for some big dramatic solution, this probably isn't that. But if you're open to some small, honest, realistic changes, you know, the kind that you can actually stick to, then these are the habits that changed everything for me. So let me stop talking so much, okay? Let's get into those habits. So the first thing was I stopped thinking life was happening to me. For a very long time, I actually felt like everything was stacked against me. And I've always been this like optimistic person, like very, delusionally in a way. But at the same time, internally, I did always wonder, why were all of these things happening to me? Like, why do I have to feel this way? So any setback or heartbreak or difficult season felt like proof that something was wrong with me, or that I was somehow unlucky or behind or not good enough. And I did struggle a lot with depression as a kid, and I just think that stems from not really knowing what your purpose is in life. I know a lot of people can go through life and not really feel like they have a purpose, and they're okay with that. Like, they're okay with just living life and, vibing out, and that's totally fine. But I know that I'm just someone that if I don't feel like I can add anything valuable to the world, whether it's something really small or something really big, there's something inside of me that just feels hopeless. And I think that's where a lot of my depression came from, was that feeling of, what am I doing here? Like, what am I meant to be doing? What can I actually offer? So when my body didn't look the way that I wanted, it sort of kind of like added onto that negative spiral. It felt like life was punishing me. So when friendships or relationships ended, it felt like rejection. When I felt anxious or low, it felt like a personal failure. And the question I kept asking myself was, why is this happening to me? And I would ask this very subconsciously. And that question kept me stuck in a victim mindset for a very long time. Not in a dramatic way, just in a quiet internal way. It made everything feel heavier, like life was something I had to survive instead of something I was learning from. And the shift didn't happen overnight, but slowly I started asking a different question. What is this trying to teach me? And it's not like I've always felt like so negative and I'm always thinking, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? No, that's not how I always would think. You sort of go through stages in life where, you kind of feel really upbeat and happy and hopeful. And then you sort of go through those stages where you feel really down, unmotivated, and you just don't want to do anything. And then those are the moments when you start asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Because you kind of just want to be stuck in that self-pity mindset, which honestly gets you nowhere. I'm speaking from experience. So that question of asking yourself, what is this actually trying to teach me, shifts your entire perspective. And that question changes everything, because it assumes that the experience has value, right? It assumes that you're not just being punished or singled out by life. It puts you back in a position of power, even in uncomfortable situations. And I started to realize that life is actually supposed to have problems. It's not like a glitch in the system, okay? Life is meant to have problems. And when I started to change my mindset and started to be okay with that, it's so crazy how you start to move through life differently. You start to think differently. You start looking at certain things that are going wrong and you start asking yourself, okay, wait, let me pause. What is this trying to teach me? No matter how bad it is, what is this trying to teach me? Because problems are what shape us. They stretch us. They force us to grow and to adapt and to become more resilient and more self-aware and more grounded. And if everything was always perfect and comfortable and easy, you wouldn't really evolve as a human being, right? You'd probably be bored and restless and unfulfilled. Some of the hardest periods in my life are the ones that taught me the most about myself. They showed me what I valued, what I would tolerate, what I needed to change, and what I was actually capable of surviving. And I want to be really honest here. I still get overwhelmed. I still have days where I feel anxious and frustrated and burnt out, or just emotionally tired. I'm not like a robot, and I'm definitely not permanently zen, chill vibes. I just think that sometimes you have those days where you feel so motivated and ready to go, and then other days you just want to lay on your bed and play Justin Bieber in the background. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassing. But the difference now is that I just recover faster. So sure, I have those bad days and those low days or whatever, but I just recover much faster. I don't tend to like sit in it for as long, if you get my vibe. I don't stay in that, oh my gosh, poor me mindset for weeks or months like I used to. I don't spiral as deeply or as long. I might have a bad day or even a bad week, but I can usually catch myself and ask, okay, what is this showing me? What can I learn here? What's the next right step? And what can I do in this moment to kind of reset and feel good again? And sometimes, yes, I still like to scream into a pillow. I'm just kidding. I actually haven't done that, but apparently that works. And honestly, sometimes you just need to, okay? Because this mindset isn't about pretending that everything is fine. It's not about having forced positivity or ignoring your feelings. It's about trusting that even difficult experiences have something to offer you, and that you're strong enough to move through them. Like, you are strong enough. And I just think that changing your perspective doesn't remove your problems in your life. It just makes you a little bit more stronger. The second thing is that I treated self-improvement as nourishment and not punishment. For the longest time, I approached self-improvement like it was a checklist of things that I had to do to be better. So whether that was like eating perfectly or moving more, learn this, fix that, it was exhausting. Every action felt like it was correcting something wrong with me. That mindset only made me feel heavier mentally and emotionally because nothing I did ever felt like it was enough. So the shift came when I started treating growth like nourishment and not punishment. I began approaching self-improvement the way that I approach a good meal. Something that fills me and energizes me and makes me feel alive, not something that shames me for what I wasn't. And I sort of leaned into curiosity a lot. I started reading more, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. And I really enjoy learning. I think that every single day it's so nice and so cool to learn something new. And books have always been that way for me. Like, I just think that it's so crazy how you can buy a book and you can learn something totally new. Or if you are interested in something, you can buy a book on that and read it. And then you have like a skill, like you know what that thing is about, which is so fascinating and so cool. And I think books can be such a great learning experience, such a great escape. And it's just so crazy how it sort of opens your mind up and expands your thinking a little bit. It's so cool. So I just wanted to find a way that I could understand myself better and understand the people around me and the world that I live in. And books for me have always been that kind of like outlet. So the key distinction isn't that I wasn't trying to fix myself anymore. I was trying to grow. And when I shifted my mindset to rather think in that type of way, that tiny shift changed everything. When your brain isn't fed anything meaningful, it spirals. I mean, how often do we watch things on YouTube and we're like, oh my gosh, I literally lost brain cells watching this. Like, I've watched so many things on YouTube before and I'm like, why am I watching this? Sometimes we just like consume things. We just feel stuck. We feel low. We're not really taking in anything valuable. And you feel like life is just like passing you by. You're in autopilot all the time. And I just think that when you start giving yourself small doses of curiosity and learning every single day, even just a few pages of a book or listening to a short podcast episode, it fuels your brain in a completely different way. It energizes you and it stimulates you in the best way possible. And it reminds you that you can evolve even slowly without pressure or judgment. Growth has always been something in a weird way that excites me, not something that made me feel like I wasn't enough or that I was scared of growth. I think, obviously change is scary. I don't think anybody likes change, but there's something so intriguing about growing and learning and expanding. It just sort of changes your mindset. And once you get to the other side, you feel so amazing. The third thing is that I reduced the noise, especially from social media. For so many years, social media was just there. Okay, like a default part of my day. Bored? Open the app. Waiting in line? Open the app. 5 minutes? Turned into 40 without even realizing it. And all the while, I was comparing myself and my body and my life and my productivity, my success constantly. It wasn't just a habit, it was mental clutter that I didn't even know I was carrying. So that shift didn't happen overnight, but slowly I started treating social media differently. I realized that I didn't have to consume it mindlessly anymore. Instead, I started posting with intention for my brand, not for validation. I didn't pick up my phone every time I was bored or anxious. I sort of allowed myself to actually be present in my own life. I paid attention to my surroundings and my thoughts and my feelings. And the other day, I was driving home from the mall, right? And the sun was like slowly setting and the sky was turning orange, but it was sort of overcast. So like on the top of the clouds, it was a little bit orange and was so beautiful. And I remember driving and I'm facing the sunset, right? And I was like, wow, that is amazing. That is so beautiful. And I just thought to myself, this is literally how I feel every single time I see a sunset. Like, it doesn't get old. And I think when you romanticize life a little bit and you start looking for those small, beautiful moments of gratitude, I just think that you start to feel so much better as a person. You feel so much more fulfilled and happy and good because you're taking note of those small little blessings and you're romanticizing it and it's making you feel really good about life. And honestly, it's freeing. Comparison is very heavy. It makes you feel like you're always behind, like you're not enough. It clouds your mind and your decisions and your confidence. By replacing all of that noise, I could actually finally hear my own thoughts again. I could reconnect with what I actually wanted, not what everyone else was showing me that they had. And it wasn't about quitting social media completely because obviously it's such a great tool to connect with people across the world and also to use it for marketing. But it was sort of about taking back my control and giving myself mental space and letting my own voice and my own life be what I focused on. And when I took a break last year from social media, and it was only for like 2 months, but that sort of shifted everything for me because I started thinking about it in a totally different way. I didn't always need to be on and posting and checking what everyone else is doing. I could literally just post what I needed to do, maybe check what everyone's up to, and then I could log out of the app and carry on with my day. It's not something that I was consumed by anymore. So the last thing is that I changed my relationship with food and my body. This one is probably the most personal because it touches the stuff I've carried for years. Growing up, I had a really complicated relationship with food. It always consisted of me binging, starving myself, and restricting, and then the cycle would just like repeat, and I would add so much shame to how I would feel afterwards, and I would add so much shame to how I felt about my body. I literally tried every quick fix diet that you could think of, and this is being a teenager, okay, and going into my early 20s, but as a teenager, trying every quick fix diet you could think of that you saw in magazines or on TV. And that is so crazy to think of, and it's so sad because I obsessed over scales, weight amount, hated what I saw in the mirror, and I treated food like the enemy. Eating felt stressful to me. Every single time when I was putting food into my mouth, I was thinking, okay, cool, how is this going to make me feel tomorrow or in a few minutes? Eating didn't feel like something that was helping me to give me energy. It felt more like punishment and guilt, and it was terrible. And the shift didn't happen overnight for me. It started when I began to reframe how I thought about food. So I stopped seeing it as something that made me feel fat and picking up weight and not feeling good about myself, and I started seeing it as fuel, something that actually gave me energy to live my life, to move, to show up, to enjoy. And I think that going vegetarian for 4 years was such a big part of that for me, because I went through this phase in my life where I watched some really terrible videos, okay? I've always been really interested in like conservation and environmental issues and all of those types of things. Like, I'm a nature girl. I love the outside. I really appreciate nature and all of that. So I went vegetarian for 4 years, and it was such a great thing for me. So it wasn't just about like the losing weight aspect of it all. It obviously had to do more about like the issues that I felt were unfair when it came to like animals and how they were treated, and then also environmental issues too. But it actually was such a good thing, I'm not gonna lie. It just taught me to pay attention to how different foods made me feel mentally and physically, and then I started to experiment instead of just blindly copying someone else's plan of like what you should be eating. Because I think that everyone's body is different, and what makes somebody else feel good isn't going to make me feel good. What works for them isn't going to necessarily work for me. So I think sort of just taking a break from eating meat was such a good thing for me, because I was able to be a bit more aware and conscious about how I was eating and fueling my body. Not in like a weird, like restrictive type of way, more in a way where I was understanding, okay, does this work for me? How does this make me feel? Should I remove this rather? What can I add? And how can I kind of curate foods that are going to make me feel good and not going to make me spiral and not make me feel that great? So that was a great thing for me. And I actually lost a lot of weight when I was vegetarian, because I don't know, like I just think that I was able to not just stuff myself with food, then feel guilt afterwards. I was able to just be a bit more aware and understand what is actually good for my body, what's nourishing. So I did a lot of research. I also added movement, and it became a way to sort of reconnect with my body in a really positive way. So as a kid, we'd always go hiking, and I love hiking in the mountains. So that is another activity that I sort of brought into my adult life, was going for hikes and walks and doing yoga and just being active in ways that felt enjoyable instead of punishing. And I always loved playing sport. Like I loved playing tennis and hockey and netball and all of that in school. So sort of just getting back to being active again was such a great feeling, because there's something so carefree about moving and having fun, and you're being active at the same time. It just like helps your mind work so much better. So that was such an amazing addition to really changing how I saw myself and how I wanted to feel. And also the mindfulness piece, okay? Not in like a woo-woo way, not in like a forced way, just sort of slowing down, noticing my surroundings, sitting by the ocean, walking with headphones, being able to enjoy being alone without feeling lonely. Those quiet moments helped me to feel calmer, make better decisions, not just mentally but physically too. And I've always been very interested in meditation. I started meditating at the age of 16, being such a game changer in my life. It's something that everyone talks about, I know, but if you haven't tried it, I would highly recommend. And I think people get sort of like put off by meditation because you think that you need to have a yoga mat and then sit upright for like an hour. You don't have to do that. You could literally just lie on your couch or on your bed, on your back, and put on a guided meditation and just vibe out. It's just all about taking that time to sort of disconnect from your racing thoughts in your mind and find some stillness and bring yourself back to that present moment. That's something definitely that I recommend. Just being mindful when things are getting a little bit overwhelming, just putting on a guided meditation and being in that moment and telling yourself that things will be okay. Bring yourself back into this moment where you are in control, where you are in a space of feeling safe and happy and calm. And when you come out of that, you're able to see things clearer and you have a better perspective, and now you can move forward with so much more clarity. So look, I'm still aware of my body. I still catch myself thinking old critical thoughts. Sometimes I put on an outfit and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good. Like, you do not look good, Kelly. But now I respond with compassion instead of hate, and that alone shifted everything. So just learning to treat my body as an ally instead of like an enemy has been one of the most freeing things I've ever done. And it's the reason the weight I carry mentally and physically feels so much more lighter than it ever has before. So just a short recap of those 4 habits. I stopped seeing life as something against me. I fed my mind with things that helped me grow. I reduced the noise and comparison, and I changed my relationship with food and my body and how I looked at food. So I didn't lose weight by hating myself into it. I lost weight because I started showing up for myself little by little. And it wasn't an easy process. And along the way, I shed a lot of mental weight too. The pressure, the comparison, the self-judgment, all the noise that made me feel like I wasn't enough. And I'm really glad as a kid that my dad always instilled in me to just be myself, to just feel confident in who I am as a person. And I think that subconsciously has always carried me through life, because it's so easy to look at other people and compare yourself and ask yourself, why don't I look like that? And I think that when you are more in tune with who you are and comfortable with who you are, and you feel like, you know what, you are rare, you are special, you have so much to offer, I think that it changes the way that you look at yourself. And you're looking at yourself now with such better lenses, if that makes any sense. So if you're in a season where you feel heavy, physically or mentally, you don't need a complete life overhaul. You don't need a perfect plan or a dramatic reset. You can just start with one small shift, one kinder thought, one better decision today, and one little act of self-respect. If you're someone who feels like you need a bit of structure or a reset right now in your life, I actually created a 21-day reset guidebook that walks you through small realistic shifts like these. And this is stuff that I literally did last year. So the entire guidebook is basically just me writing down every single thing that I did every day that helped me to reframe and reset and recenter myself. So I really hope that this episode has inspired you. I hope that these habits are helpful, and I hope that they make you feel less alone, because you aren't alone. I'm here for you, of course. We're figuring out life together. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode, and yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you want to hear from me. DM me on Instagram or whatever. I love hearing from you, and I love hanging out with you, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. Like, have the best day, okay? I will see you guys next week. Bye.